Hi. Okay, so I realized that I I sometimes, and okay, so let me start over. I think about everything inside my mind, like I just think about it before I say it. And then sometimes I can have these whole like conversations and in-depth kind of like, well, this leads to this and all that stuff going on inside my mind. And then to the people outside of my mind, it's kind of like crickets. So I'm going to try to be more like concise about what I want to say and everything. I'll get better at it. But I was praying before I got on here, and I asked God to help me figure out what He wanted to talk about, or He wanted me to talk about. And I thought about the fact that this is another kind of relationship struggle that people have, that if you can find a way to work around it, it would help you a lot. One thing is that, and this is true about really any kind of atmosphere or like relationship, but a lot of times people think that they are doing more than their spouse, and I know that sometimes it might seem that way, or it might be obvious or something like that. And, in some cases it's probably true, but, the Bible talks about how we are to be servants. Like if you want to be first, you have to be last, and, you can really see that if like, I'm sure hopefully everybody knows somebody who's like very loving and just gives all the time. Sometimes people, especially women, can tend to give to the point where they feel, even if they don't realize it, they are giving to the point of their own like misery, because they're giving out of a place of like their heart is not right, like, oh, I'm gonna have to do these dishes and this laundry or whatever because nobody else is gonna do it, and on the outside it just looks like, oh man, she just never stops. She's always like, running around the house and doing stuff and stuff like that. And it can create a lot of bitterness if you are in your mind thinking, I am doing all this stuff and this other person is not doing as much as me. And the danger of that is that you become selfish, you become self-centered, and you are thinking about all the stuff that you're doing, and you're kind of, you get to the point where you're kind of like blind to all the stuff that other person is doing, because you're thinking they're not doing as much as you. I left my water bottle at work yesterday, so I have this until I get in there. Side note. So what I would suggest, one thing that is very helpful, is if you are appreciative, like if you take note, even if, okay, like let's take this scenario, which I'm sure a lot of women could relate to. His job is to take out the trash. It's always to take out the trash. You never take out the trash, okay? Well, you look at it like that's his job. He is supposed to take out the trash, and when it gets full, he's supposed to take it out. Why would I appreciate, why would I, go out of my way to say thank you for something that he's supposed to be doing, And I would like to encourage you to change your mindset about that. So it's not that he can't take out the trash without you saying thank you, but your heart towards him will start to change if you start appreciating the things that he's doing, the small things that he's doing. And then he will start to do, he'll start, his heart will start to change towards you as well. So I was talking to somebody and she was saying that she didn't need appreciation. Like, she just did it, and she didn't need appreciation. She didn't need somebody to say thank you. And I would argue that I believe that we all want appreciation. I think that we get validation through different ways, it might be validating just on its own for you to see, your kids having a clean room or clean clothes or something like that, where you just feel good about that. And they don't have to be, if they're 2 or whatever, they don't have to be like thanking you. Thanks, Mom, for doing my clothes, But I think that there's something, especially within marriage, that it's very helpful and healthy for you to appreciate each other. Because then when you start seeing the things, it's kind of like God's blessings, we can sometimes get so overwhelmed with the things in our life that we feel like we would love to see change. Like, well, this should happen, or I'm praying for this to happen. I've got this bill due. I've got this stuff done, to do. And we can get kind of distracted with all of the things that need to get done, But whenever you stop and think about how God has blessed you, how good God is, like, whenever you just worship God and you're like, you know what, I'm just thankful for life. Even if you just start there, I'm thankful for you waking me up this morning. I'm thankful that I had a bed to sleep in last night. When you start it, you can think of all these amazing things that God has done for you. And that's the same with marriage too. Whenever you start appreciating the other person and you start saying, wow, thank you for taking out the trash, the reality is that if he wasn't there, you'd be taking it out, so even though it's his job, it's like, well, you should still be thankful and show that. Like, why doesn't he deserve to hear that, and I'm speaking kind of in a direction towards women in this scenario, but it goes both ways. I just know that as a woman myself and somebody who has experienced this, and has seen it a lot, that women can kind of tend to just want to kind of get things done and kind of focus on I don't need appreciation, I just need to get it done, and I just want these certain things to happen and to work out that way. If it's going to work out, it has to be done, and then can kind of like forget or get so caught up in the day-to-day, just the busyness, the day-to-day, the kids and all that stuff, that you're not thinking about the fact that your heart isn't soft towards your husband or the little things that they do to help you. And it's it's just a part of life. Sometimes I think women can kind of like shut off, they get kind of on track and kind of shut off that stuff. But all this stuff kind of plays into intimacy as a whole. It's going to affect your sex life. It's going to affect your communication, your relationship and stuff like that. And really what it takes is somebody who is willing to stop the cycle. And a lot of times that cycle, that kind of like, you know, let's just keep with the trash, you know, he keeps letting it fill up, and then I have to nag him about it, and then he takes it out, you know? So it's like this cycle that kind of keeps where nobody's happy. Nobody's happy in this cycle, you know? Somebody has to stop that cycle, you know? And a lot of times whenever you want to stop that cycle, it takes a lot of humility, and it takes you to kind of swallow your pride and say, okay, even though, just taking this from a woman's perspective for a second, even though that is his job and I do all of this other stuff, I'm gonna start expressing appreciation. I'm gonna start telling him thank you for taking out the trash, you know, and not in a sarcastic way or anything like that, you know. Pray before you say it if you need to. And, you know, just it will then inevitably change your mind and your heart towards him, starting with just such a small thing, you know. And then he will respond to that, because everybody likes to be appreciated. You know, when you start saying, I appreciate you for taking out the trash. And then eventually he might say, well, thank you for doing the dishes, or thank you for making dinner, or, you know, all that stuff. And those things are part of living and growing with somebody. Like, you know, it might seem silly to some people to think like, why should I be thanking somebody for doing something that's a part of like living life? But why not? You know, like why hold back that opportunity for you to express love towards somebody that you've chosen to spend your life with? You know, the person that you've made a commitment in front of God and everybody to spend the rest of your life with, to, you know, honor and cherish. And, you know, why not show appreciation for something that you might think is something he should do anyways, you know? So I would like to encourage you to find something, you know, that try to notice, because when you do that, at the, you know, kind of circling back to the original thought, is that, you know, if you are feeling like I'm doing so much more than him, I'm carrying the burden, I'm carrying a lot, I'm doing a lot, you know, there's other things that can go into that, and there's other avenues that you can take, you know, discussions that might need to be had about what your expectations are, just like, you know, being honest about what you're hoping to have done, or what you're expecting, you know, at home. So, but having the mindset that I'm doing everything and he's doing nothing, you know, is almost never true. It's just that you are, or a person can very easily get caught up in their own day-to-day stuff, feeling overwhelmed, and then they're not even looking at the other person to see what they're doing, you know? And once you kind of make that conscious effort to start noticing those things, like just start paying attention to, okay, what, you know, he's taking out the trash, or, you know, he, I mean, just anything, you know, he put his clothes in the hamper instead of on the floor, or whatever the things are, you know. I think that it changes your mindset, it changes your heart, and it also starts reversing the cycle of, I'm doing everything, he's doing nothing, I'm doing all this stuff, look at me, you know. And that's just not a healthy happy place. You know, it's just not a good place. And then you start getting growing and just kind of anger and bitterness, and you know, it's not healthy, you know, for you or for anybody. You know, your kids, if you have kids, or your husband, and then yourself too. You're not going to be happy if you keep kind of down that mindset. So, I hope this helps, and talk to you later. Bye.